So, good morning, everyone, especially to you, Sir Kurt. We are the Group 1 from Session 2, and we will going to be reporting acid and bases together with my team, Miss Acuña and Miss Billones. So, before we start, where do you think acid can be found, and what do you think acid can be? If you answered anything that is shown in the PowerPoint presentation, then probably you are correct. So, what are acids that can be found at home? First is citric acid. It is found in all citrus fruit, like lemons. Second is lactic acid. It's found when the milk is transformed into curd. Third is acetic acid. It is found in the vinegar. And the last one is sulfuric acid. It is found in a drain cleaner or H2SO4. What is acid? Acid is derived from the Latin word acere or acere, which means sour. Their sour flavor is the most prevalent feature of an acid. Any hydrogen-containing material is capable for transferring a proton or a hydrogen ion to another chemical that is classified as an acid. Acid can cause the blue litmus paper to become red. And lastly, acid are naturally corrosive or pwede sila makapataya sa isa ka butang. So acid, it was in 1887 that acids were first described by Svante Arrhenius, a Swedish chemist. As you can see in the PowerPoint presentation, that hydrogen chloride is dissociated by water, H2O, to turn into hydrogen ions that are reason why the acids have their sour taste. And back to the beginning, if some of you answered lemons as a acid, then you are correct. The next lesson is going to be the naming of acid that is going to be discussed by Miss Ace.
So now here we are naming and writing the formula of an acid. So, by the way, I am Charmin, and I will be the one who will be discussing you on how to name and writing the formula of an acid. So, let's define acid first. Well, always remember that acid always have a formula that starts with hydrogen. And acid also has two types, which is the binary acid that contains a monoatomic ion. The second one is acid that contains a polyatomic ion. So, here are some rules. If a polyatomic ion is associated with a word that ended with the word ate or ate, such as sulfate, nitrate, or phosphate, we must replace it with the suffix "-ic" plus the word acid. And another one that contains a polyatomic that ended with the word "ite" or "ite", we must replace it with the suffix "-ous". So, now, how about naming, or what do we need to remember and naming the binary acids, which is it contains a monatomic ion. So, here's one thing we need to remember. Since it is a monatomic ion, it is associated with a word that ended with IDE or "ide". So, we must add a prefix hydro plus a suffix "-ic" plus an acid. So, here are some examples. Let's say we wanted to name the H2SO4, since H2SO4 contains a polyatomic ion, sulfate. So, since it ended with ATE, we must replace it with a suffix "-ic". So, the sulfate will become sulfuric acid. Let's move forward on writing the formula. So, let's write the formula for phosphoric acid. Since it is a phosphoric acid and it didn't start with hydro, so we already know that it's not a monoatomic ion. So it has to be a polyatomic ion. And since we already see the "-ic" part of the acid, we know that it's associated with H, so it's gonna be phosphate. So the formula of phosphate is PO4 3 negative. So now if we look at the negative charge, since it has a negative charge, we must add 3 hydrogens to it in order to neutralize the negative 3 charge. Since each hydrogen ion has a plus 1 charge, so it's going to be simply add the 3 hydrogen to it, put it in the front, and that's how we can write the formula for phosphoric acid, which is H3PO4. Now, we have here is some other example, which is phosphorus acid. Since phosphorus acid is a polyatomic ion, so it ended with OUS, so it should be phosphite. And the formula of phosphite is PO3 negative 3. Because it has a negative 3 charge, we need to add 3 hydrogen to it. So in order to neutralize the negative charge, in order to neutralize the negative 3 charge, now the formula of phosphorus acid will become H3PO3. Now, how about hydrobromic acid? Now, since we see a hydro, so it means it is a monoatomic ion. So, hydrobromic acid contains a monoatomic ion which is bromide, and then the formula of bromide is Br negative 1. So, we must add only 1 hydrogen to it, so the formula of hydrobromic acid will become HBr. So, maybe that can be all.
So, good day to everyone. Since human naman si Miss Ace explain what unsaon pag-name sa acids, now I'll be taking over in explaining what are the bases. So, what really are the bases? Bases are ionic compounds that dissociate into cations and hydrogen ions, which is the sign is OH, from Arrhenius theory. Now, as you can see, para masabtan na to sa akong buot ipasabot sa inyo sa mag-dissociate. So as you can see sa picture analysis, ang sodium hydroxide gibutang siya. So as you can see, ang hydroxide na siya negative charge while ang sodium na siya positive charge. So ang ionic compound nga sodium hydroxide, pagbutang sa water, nabungkag sila. Nalahi ang sodium, nalahi pod ang hydroxide ions. So next, sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is an example of Arrhenius base that dissociates completely in water, forming sodium ions and hydrogen ions. Parehas akong giingon ganina nga pag mabutang ang sodium hydroxide sa tubig, mabungkag ang mga ions, which is mahimo siyang sodium, malahi pod ang hydroxide ions. So most Arrhenius bases are formed from group 1A and 2A sa periodic table. For example, NaOH, which is sodium hydroxide, correct? KOH, which is potassium hydroxide. LiOH, which is lithium hydroxide. And CaOH, which is calcium hydroxide. So the hydroxide ions give the bases their common characteristics such as bitter taste and slippery feel. Ang kalahian nila, ang taste sa base are bitter taste. Well, sa acid is acidic kayo siya. Nakatilaw mo siguro mag-acid, no? So, makasagot na mo sa kung buot kasagot. So now, moving on. A substance that can accept hydrogen ions in water can neutralize an acid. So, basicity is measured in a scale called the pH scale. So, ma-measured ang basicity sa isa ka compound through sa ginatawag na ito nga pH scale.
2, 3, start.
Since kaganina is gitudluan na ta ni Miss A sa pag-name sa acids, now I'll be discussing how to name bases and writes its formula. So, if the formula with a metal or NH4 and ends in OH, then a compound is a base. First mo buhaton, write the metal name, and then i-add nimo tong hydroxide nga ang symbol niya is OH. So, as you can see sa among PPT mo, ang among gi-example is NH4. So, para murag-libog man siya, no? So, I will give you another example. I will give you another example. For example, ang atong metal is copper. Unsay symbol sa copper? Cu. So, now, ang buhaton na to, ibutan na to ang Cu, Then, dungagan na to og hydroxide, which is the OH. So, mahimo na siyang copper hydroxide. Muna na siya base. Ang timan-ang lang ninyo sa base is nag-end siya of OH, which is the hydroxide. So now, since I know that ready na mo kay nakabalo na mo sa amo ang i-explain. So, para ma-test na to kung naabagin mo na sabtan, or so now I will be giving you a minute. Kay dali raman jud kay ni siya. So, I will giving you a minute to answer, which is flash in the screen. So, you have to identify if it is an acid or a base. Then, what is the name of the compound. So, timer starts now. So, time's up. I think we will be showing the answer. Karon makita na to if tama ba jud ang inyong answers. Did you get it right? Good. If you get it right, this is muna siya timailhan nga na dyan mo nasabtan. If some of you get it wrong, so you need to study and understand more about it. So, goodbye everybody. That's all for today's video. Thank you.